Okay, we'll go on and call this meeting of the Subcommittee on Income Tax, Ways and Means Subcommittee to order. We are going to start with HB 142. Representative Carpenter.
Right here, is that okay? You okay with me presenting
that's
right here?
great. Yeah.
Okay, committee, I come before you, House Bill 142. It's a really simple bill, right? Basically does three things for the QEE program that we have in place now at the state level. It allows insurance companies to be able to divert some of their policy taxes towards the program. It grows the program from 100 million to 150 million, and then it also allows pass-through entities, LLCs and whatnot, to increase their contribution limits from 10,000 to 25,000. So I think, if anything, we've learned throughout COVID is that students need education opportunities, and I think that this program has proven over the last few years to be successful in higher graduation rates, higher college attendance, and I truly think that if we are able to go through this legislation, that we have an opportunity to continue to do that while saving the state money. The average student that uses this scholarship program saves the state almost $2,000. So the way it's spread out, it roughly costs the state $3,700 versus $5,700 a year to educate these kids that are utilizing these scholarships. And I think from a business perspective that that is always a good thing when you can save state taxpayers money. And then from a parent standpoint, allowing additional opportunities is always a good thing. When we go to the grocery store and there's 7 different kinds of green beans, but yet for some reason when it comes to education, it's a one-size-fit-all scenario. And I just don't think that fits the challenges that we saw during COVID. And I would appreciate any conversation that you want to have on this bill. I'm open to reducing some numbers on it. I'll open to changing to 2022 so that it's gives us some time to make sure budgetary and everything is good for next year. But I will say this: allowing insurances to divert their premium taxes has occurred already in a number of states, including Republican and Democratic states: Arizona, Florida, Kansas, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Dakota, and Virginia. So it's not an abstract idea. It's not Georgia trying to set the trend on this, but it's other states that have done this, and it's proven to be successful. And at the end of the day, to me, it's all about giving kids options. And I'd take any questions.
All right, thank you for the presentation. There are a couple of people that want to, or at least some that want to speak on the bill, but first we're going to see if there's some questions from the subcommittee members for the bill author. All right, if not, I believe we have some interested in speaking to the bill. Is this Dr. Stephen Owens? Dr. Owens, are you there? Yes.
I am. Can you see me?
I can, and we can hear you fine. Go ahead with your presentation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Chairman Williamson and members of the Georgia House Ways and Means Committee. By way of introduction, my name is Stephen Owens, and I'm a senior K-12 education policy analyst for the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan research and advocacy organization that advances lasting solutions to expand economic opportunity and well-being for all Georgians. GBPI has a long-standing objection to legislation that funnels public funds to private schools, and therefore bills such as House Bill 142. The concerns brought up in the performance audit by the Department of Audits and Accounts of the Qualified Education Expense Tax Credit shows that this program provides little to no public oversight or accountability. Instead of raising the cap and giving corporations an easier path to avoiding payment for state taxes, this committee could require additional audits and protections to ensure compliance with the program's goals. Even if the state were to move on the recommendations found in the performance audit, there are fatal flaws with a program that allows for public funding to subsidize schools that were created on the basis of discrimination. Public funds are currently being directed to pass-through organizations or student scholarship organizations that then pay for private schools that might expel a student for being gay or bar a woman from sitting on their board of governance. Any argument for the accountability of individual parents falls flat when considering the dearth of private schools in places like South Georgia, or the sheer lack of information provided to parents that participate in voucher programs like this one. In a year when Georgia's public schools are underfunded for the 17th time in the last 19 years, expanding this program would only further erode the support for the system meant to serve every child, no matter their race, income, ability, sexual orientation, or language. I ask that you all support Georgia's children by voting no on House Bill 142. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I believe we have others who are prepared to also to speak at this hearing. This is a hearing only on HB 142. Is Ms. Kim available? Grace Kim. All right, did you say?
Hello?
Ms. Kim?
Hello?
Ms. Kim,
Hello?
can you hear us?
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right, would you like to go ahead with your comments on House Bill 142?
Yes, I'm with the Georgia School Board Association. The School Board Association opposes the diversion of public funds to private schools. The GSBA urges the General Assembly to include accountability measures, including financial and policy transparency and performance evaluation measures. $100 million cap was not met in so far in 2021 and was not met in 2020. It seems unreasonable to increase the cap at this time.
All right, well, thank you for your presentation. Are there any further comments from the bill author?
Yeah, I'd probably just have a few. I think the comment that the cap was not met, to me, makes it sound like, then what's the concern if the cap was not met? I think that the changes that we're making to allow insurance companies and also to increase the ability of pass-through entities to increase their amount should go a long ways towards meeting that cap. And if it doesn't meet that cap, then the people that are against this bill really shouldn't be concerned, right? Because if it's not taking that additional money that you're so concerned with, but I think this is, to me, if you look at what we've done as a state for public education and what the nation has done, sending money down from the feds, they're not underfunded. The schools in Georgia public schools have plenty of money in the state of Georgia. That has been a priority of this House for a long time, and it continues to be. And I think as you see this next round of funding coming from the feds, they're going to be flushed with an extremely large amount of cash, upwards of $700 or $800 million more than they would have if everything had remained the same. So that argument that we're adding $50 million to allow folks to pursue other educational opportunities is very reasonable when faced with a number of 800 million plus. So, I understand the concern, but I also understand that Georgia families want choices. And Aaa Scholarship Program, their average scholarship recipient's family makes $37,000 a year as a family of four. So this isn't a program about sending rich kids to school. This is a program about allowing kids that can't afford to go to private school the opportunity to get scholarships so that they have other choices. And if anything that I have figured out during this pandemic is certain school systems have refused to allow in-classroom education opportunities, and that has done nothing but leave parents that are stuck in these systems with little to no choices. So that's my reason for bringing the bill, and I'm extremely passionate about it.
Thank you. You do have a question from the committee. Who's Representative Fry? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think I have a general concern when we take taxpayer dollars and allow them to be used at private entities that don't have the public at heart. And I can understand some of the issues that you may have with some of the school systems, but I believe I'm one of the few representatives that actually has children in public schools right now. And they are underfunded. And this taking my state taxpayer dollars and everybody else in this room and everybody else who's watching this and giving it to private entities, they're called private schools for a reason. And I just can't agree with that policy, but I appreciate your passion for education. But it's the public dollars going to the private sector is what I'm against.
Yeah, and I understand that argument, I think, but at the end of the day, you got to look at the person paying taxes. What's his opportunity, right? What is the person that's paying the taxes that go to the state to be redistributed? What if he's stuck in a situation where he doesn't have an option, or she doesn't have the option of sending their kids to school, but yet we're not creating an opportunity for that to occur? And I think, at the end of the day, it's Joe taxpayers that's not getting the choice, but it's their money that the state's saying, I'm sorry, this is what you get. And you just get one type of green bean. You don't get to choose the 7 at the grocery store. You get one. And it's there, and they're paying 2, and they're paying local taxes. So it's not that these folks are not contributing to the public education system. And let me just give you my personal scenario. With all my businesses, I pay $50,000 in local property taxes. We choose, because I'm actually a public school guy. My brother's a public school teacher, and my sister-in-law's a public school teacher. I went to public school, big fan. My wife did not. So our kids go to the local Christian school. We pay $11,000 for each kid to go there. Plus we contribute to this Gold Scholarship. It doesn't come back to me. I don't get that scholarship that these kids are getting, but what I have seen, it has allowed us to have more diversity in that school that otherwise we would not be able to have. And it's those kids that I'm concerned with. My kids will be fine. They got a good mama, but there's kids out there that are not as fortunate as my kids are. And that's what this program is about. It's about helping those kids. It's about helping those school kids, saving the state money, and having better results, because the results that I'm seeing in here are off the charts better than what we're seeing in the local systems. And that's not everybody's. Your system may be great, but there's systems that people need opportunities, and they don't have them right now.
Is there a follow-up?
What's the average scholarship per child that is a recipient of these funds?
Let me check right here, buddy. I know at my school, it's like $3,700, the ones my kids go to school with. But
Okay.
basically it costs the state $3,700 in here as well. So it just depends on because they all apply for financial aid. It's a third party that comes in and evaluates each family's situation, based on income, based on expenses. And then they give a lot of partial scholarships. It's not saying, here, you get a free ride. Hey, we think you can afford $200 a month, and then this will supplement that. So it's we talk all the time about funding things at the state level for federal pull down money. And that's what this program does. It says, look, this family here, they may be able to pay $200 a month with the opportunity to pull down some of this scholarship money. So from what I've seen, it's a good system, and it stretches taxpayers' dollars to get the maximum benefit.
Do you, I know it's just a hearing today. I know it's $100 or $150 million if it's fully subscribed. Do you know how that compares to I'm not on education appropriations subcommittee.
Yeah, me either, but it's a lot. It's a big number. I mean, anytime we move that
I have a feeling this is a small percentage.
It's extremely small, and I can get you those numbers, but it's a drop in the proverbial bucket at the end of the day. And I'm game with looking at, if 150 is not the number, what's the number? 120, just enough so that insurance piece does not take away from other families contributing. I'm okay with that. I just, anytime you start asking for things, you start high and then you whittle it down to, a little compromise. Never hurt anybody.
Any other questions from the committee? Yes, Representative Buckner.
A little compromise never hurt anybody. And this is not directed at you, but every time I've seen a bill of this type come forward, the committee has asked for more oversight and accountability, and it's never been put in the bill. There's never been any compromise on that. Why do we keep trying to take money and put it in these private schools away from our public schools and have accountability for the public schools and not for these? And I mean, that's bothersome to me.
Sure. And I don't have a problem with accountability. I don't have a problem at all. I mean, I'm looking at a study done from Kennesaw State right here that shows the graduation numbers and the college attendance rates for students, and also students who would be on free or reduced lunches. And the numbers are off the charts. I mean, you got a 99% graduation rate versus 82% at public school. Kids that are on free or reduced lunches. Let me read that one. Graduated a 98% versus a 77%. So, I mean, I think you got a 26% increase for kids that were on free or reduced lunches that start attending colleges. So I think there's numbers there. Now, there is the audit that the first speaker spoke about just came out yesterday. So if there's some measures to put in there, I don't have a problem with measures. I don't care, because I think if you track it, you'll see the program is saving the state money and it's educating kids.
All right. Any other, oh, okay. Sorry. Number
Doesn't
two.
this cover some children with disabilities too?
Absolutely.
And who have no,
You should-
and I think sometimes, I'm sure in your area, not in my area, a lot of children don't have the advantage that some of the students in Atlanta might have, and they have to go to private school to get this. But as far as us underfunding, I'm sure you've looked at the reserve that all the county schools had, the school systems had before COVID. You're aware, I'm sure the man in the back looked at all the reserves that were in the public schools before COVID, and then saw how much COVID money that the schools have gotten. So I don't think you can say we're underfunding if you saw those reserves plus the COVID money. We're not underfunding them. And another thing too, that really bothers me, if you look at what some of these school superintendents are making, and that's what's overfunded. Thank you.
Who's got mic 9?
That's me.
Chairman Rich.
I just wanted to thank you, Representative Carpenter, for bringing this bill. Anybody who has talked to me about the reasons that I ran for office know that it's because I have a heart for children, especially the children who have not been as fortunate as mine. Like you, my family is able to have a choice, and we were able to meet our children's needs. And they have made friends with children at their private school who were able to come there because of bills like this. And not only have those children who benefited from the scholarship benefited from the school, but my children have benefited by having a richer environment, more reflective of our community. So thank you very much for doing this for our children who aren't as fortunate as the ones that you and I have in our homes, and most of us in this room. Thank you.
Representative Fry, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I did not look at the reserves before the pandemic hit, so I'm unaware of that. But I do know that our bus drivers and our teachers and our school employees are severely underpaid. And any legislation that takes money away from our teachers, our public school teachers in the state of Georgia, I'm going to have to be against. I appreciate y'all's concern and your passion for this issue, though. Thank you.
Do we, I know we had some people who joined us in person. Were there any others that requested to speak to the bill? Sure, just if you'd, y'all together or two separate? No. If you will, come on up to the microphone right here.
Just get up here and get this show going.
Just introduce yourself and then briefly tell us.
Good afternoon. I am Margaret Ciccarelli from Page, the Professional Association of Georgia Educators, representing about 95,000 educators across the state. We did submit written comments in advance of today's subcommittee hearing, and hopefully that got to the committee chair. Okay. So our comments are in respectful opposition to the legislation. The majority of our membership are public school educators. And speaking to the issue of school funding, which is only one of our concerns about this legislation, we have an austerity cut, an ongoing austerity cut to Georgia's public schools of over $300 million. I understand that we have received CARES dollars to help our public schools during this time, but please remember that these schools are struggling with additional safety costs to implement for stakeholder safety, as well as to remediate instructional costs that have occurred during the pandemic. So, every $50 million that is rerouted from the general fund could certainly have an impact on that ongoing austerity cut of over $300 million. Additionally, the state audit that Stephen Owens from GBPI referred to shows that there are necessary upgrades to the existing program, tuition tax credit program, to ensure that students, that taxpayer dollars are spent effectively at the schools utilizing this program, and that they are ensuring academic gains of the kids participating. So what I would encourage y'all strongly to look at the audit that was very recent and also requested by House members to incorporate those necessary changes to this legislation before considering moving it forward.
You mentioned the money you got for the CARES grant. How much did the state of Georgia get for education and the CARES funding?
I actually don't know that off the top of my head, but I'd be happy to provide that to you.
I wish you would, because I think one of my counties got $4 million, and I think if you look and saw how much they got. What about your counties that are closed and not doing school? Or what are y'all doing with the money when you're not running buses and things like that?
I'm glad you asked that.
I'd love to know.
I am the mother of 3 elementary age children who were not in school, did not have a face-to-face public school opportunity for 10 months. We just went back to school 3 weeks ago. My husband and I are both public servants, and it has been a really difficult time for our family. But our school district worked overtime to provide good virtual services, particularly for my son who has special needs. They ran buses to deliver meals. So that's what they did with some of their federal CARES funding, and they provided high quality instructional virtual needs as well.
Do you have high-speed internet?
Ma'am?
Do y'all have internet where you live?
We're in Metro, and so
Okay.
surprisingly, it's spotty. It's
But
on a house-by-house
I just see
basis.
that the public schools are not operating a lot of times, and people are screaming for the kids to go back to school. We're gonna have a tremendous amount of kids that are gonna have to repeat where I come from.
Yes, ma'am, which is which is yet another reason
And I
why
think
we
you
need
can
every
see
dollar
some
in public
counties that
schools.
have done absolutely nothing, and we've got some people in here that can verify it. And you're very lucky that I don't know what school system you're in, but you're very lucky.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Chair.
testimony.
Take care.
Chairman Rich?
I had a question for her.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on back.
Thank you. I did have an opportunity to review your letter, and I think that we are just philosophically going to disagree on the best way to take care of our children. But one issue you bring up is something that means a lot to me as well, and that's transparency. So does your organization have any suggested policies or procedures to improve that aspect, since that's a big complaint?
Yes, ma'am. I'd look first at the audit report and considering implementing what the state itself has outlined of the chief concerns. Some concerns that my organization has had, and I do want to be very transparent that we will have a philosophical disagreement. So we're not going to come to yes on this, but I think in the best interest of taxpayer dollars and academic success for students, we could agree on some potential upgrades to this legislation that are in line with the audit and our organization's longstanding concerns that we can't measure student success accurately because of lack of a similar assessment or comparable assessment with what's mandated by in public schools versus
I'm
what's
sorry, let me interrupt you there. Are you talking about all the testing?
yes.
Okay, never mind. I thought you had some other oversights that you wanted to talk about with the way that the money was spent. That's what I was interested in.
It's more academic accountability that we're concerned.
Oh, okay. I'm not worried about that. All right, thank you.
All right.
And I think I
Thank you.
concerned about that, but I also think, parents are evaluating whether their kids, they're choosing to go here for a certain reason. And so they're evaluating what the school's doing before they decide to send their schools in. So they're making a choice because they feel like it fits their needs and they're going to have better outcomes. They don't pull their kids out of a situation to put them in a worse situation. I mean, you may have weird parents out there to do that, but most parents would say this is a better scenario for me. So, I mean, I think the graduation rates and I mean, I think all that's going to come to bear, but I don't have a problem with the transparency piece. I think John Carson's working on a bill. I could care less because when you start stacking it up, nobody's scared of transparency in this program because we see it every day and we see what it's doing, and it's people choosing. And if most people don't choose on average to a worse situation for their kids. They just don't do. I mean, it defies logic.
Chairman Clark, did you have a question?
Well, I would just like to speak to the bill, like testifies. I mean, it's more of a, all right. So I want to preface everything I'm about to say with, I've got 4 kids in public school. My wife is an educator in public school. My school system was ranked last year as the #1 employer in the state of Georgia, not #1 school system, the #1 employer. When you take all private businesses and everything, I'm very fortunate in Houston County that our school system is an excellent school system. But I also understand that not every system is as fortunate. And so I stand 100% behind giving parents in other less fortunate situations options. And, I've heard things about underfunding schools. We've overfunded when you take in the QBE formula, with the QBE formula, when you take in CARES Act and the money we put back into the system, we've overfunded that QBE formula this year by $30 million. More money from the federal is coming. So they're going to be even more overfunded. And I find it hard for people to hear, because we hear this all the time, that schools are underfunded. How are schools underfunded when they have reserves? That means they actually had extra money. That means they were overfunded. Now, and as the husband of a teacher, we can talk about needing to increase pay, and we have put our money where our mouth is on that. We've given teachers pay raises through my time in this legislature. But if a school system has reserves, there's nothing in the state law says that school systems can't give them more money and pay their bus drivers with local money too. So I hear all these arguments, and I just want to say that there are kids, especially on the back end of COVID, we are seeing kids that are at a disadvantage in what they're able to get. And I, as a parent, want kids in every situation to be provided and afforded the opportunity that no zip code should determine a kid's outcome. And we can talk about, the other party wants to always talk about the school to prison pipeline. Well, let's do something about it and give these parents who are stuck in that pipeline some options for their kids. And this is an opportunity to do that. We're giving public school money. We're putting our money where our mouth is with that. And when you talk about, as I'm reading this bill, it's tax credits, right? Mm-hmm. So it's money that's not coming to the state already. It's creating a tax credit. If we're going to talk about that, we got all kinds of credits out there that we give to industries to create opportunity for employment or other things. That this isn't the state's money, it's a business's money, and then they're deciding how to use their money and maybe create some tax advantages on ways to spend it. But it's their money, and we're incentivizing them to invest in children in a direct, impactful way, and not just to come to our state's general funds. Because nothing says that this money is going to go to education. When the QBE formula is already funded, this would go somewhere else. It would come to the state's general funds. It's not going to be earmarked for education, which is already funded fully with the QBE formula. So those are just some of my points. And I want to tell the author of the bill, I support this. I know that there's things that's being presented today that you're going to have to work on with accountability and some of that stuff. And I look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you for that. We did have one other that I think desired to I will, just for future reference, I'll go over our COVID guidelines. The author of the bill may request that someone be available on Zoom during the presentation of the bill, number one. Any member of the committee may request that someone be available to provide testimony on Zoom, which can be out in the hall or down the road or whatever. And then written testimony can be accepted from anyone and will be posted on the Ways and Means website prior to the meeting started, and will stay on the website until 11 p.m. So going forward, we do have a couple of presenters, but I think going forward, we're going to try to adhere to the witnesses, the testimony being by Zoom, and we'll try to get that out ahead of time now so that for future subcommittees. But come on up for this moment, if you will, identify yourself and then give us a brief comments.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. And we'd like to commend Representative Carpenter for bringing this good piece of legislation forward, and appreciate several of the comments as well. I'm Kellen Carr, and I'm here representing Aaa Scholarship Foundation. As the sponsor mentioned earlier, our scholarship, the average household income for our scholarship recipients is less than $37,000 a year. And 90% of our scholarship recipients are in 185% of the federal poverty level, which meaning that they all apply for a free, 90% of them apply for free and reduced lunch. I would like to remind the committee and some of the comments that, you know, these scholarships don't go directly to the schools. They go to the parents, and this money follows the child. And so ultimately the accountability is with parents, and they do get to have that choice of what would work best for them. I am a mom of 4. All 4 of my kids are in public education. I'm a big supporter of school choice and public education. You know, this is not something that is binary. It doesn't have to be either or. You either support public education or you support school choice. You can, you know, definitely support both. When I started having kids, we lived in Metro Atlanta. Our first child had pretty serious health complications. The school system that we were in then would not accommodate our needs. Now we're in a great school system, and that's working for us, and we have all 4 in public education. But I did want to just, you know, remind folks that these scholarships follow the child. You know, parents get to decide what is best for them. As Representative Carpenter mentioned, you know, graduation rates are 99% of folks in this program, you know, graduate. There's really good stats on that, you know, that we'd love to further share with the committee. But 99%, give me a second and I will open this. Yeah, I think it was 99% compared to 77% graduate. And I'm trying to think. And the other thing I wanted to mention as well is that, you know, allowing insurance companies to participate just gives parity with what other Georgia companies are already enjoying. We know from the Department of Revenue's recent income tax credit utilization report that only 70 to 77% of the pre-approved credits are actually used. And so by allowing insurance companies to participate in this program, we're actually going to increase the tax liability offset. So allowing insurance companies to participate, more of these credits will actually get utilized, which means more scholarships and more children getting a better education. And so with that, I will close my remarks. But again, thank you and appreciate the time.
Thank you for your presentation. 1 second. Number 8, microphone 8.
I was just listening to something a couple of speakers back, and so what if one of these business enterprises wanted to donate to a public school?
All day
Is
long.
this allowed by
Sure.
this bill?
They do that all day long. They write that off as a business expense all the time. I do it in my business. I write every county, every school in my school district. I fund their football program, their basketball program, their wrestling program, their track program, their swim program. Anybody that calls me, I
So
fund
is the
those things.
tax credit different with this
No,
bill
it
to
would just-
them?
It's just a business deduction, so it comes off. Yeah, it's a
But the
business deduction.
businesses that take this tax credit, is it a better advantage for them to give to a private school over a public one with this bill?
It's indifferent. It's
It
not.
is
It's
different.
indifferent. It's indifferent.
Oh.
So they're either going to give it to the state or they're going to give it to the school. It's not. It doesn't matter to the insurance company, because he's either going to give the state the money or they're going to give the private school or the scholarship fund the money. So that it's indifferent. It's not a. It's just a. It's a
Either
net
or.
zero. It's a net zero for the insurance company. It's not like they would be able to keep that money otherwise.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
Houston.
The money that industry has put in the REACH program. I'm sure you're aware of the REACH program. And it is supported by a lot by businesses, and they put a lot of money in public school education through the REACH program.
I will. Go ahead.
Information. That's not true with private schools, but we are giving public money to private schools with very little disclosure. Well, in a sense it is if it was going to be paid in taxes,
giving it
that
to the
now it's
parents.
being given to the
We'll call
private
it
school.
Hang
pre-public
on.
money.
Pre-public
Hang on
money.
just
Call
a
it
second.
pre-public, like,
All right. Hang on just a second.
Sure.
Number
And I
four.
thought- I mean,
Hang
that's
on,
valid.
hang on, just a second. Let's try to keep it
sorry, I
organized.
apologize. Sorry,
Who's-
Chairman.
Who's got microphone 4?
That's me,
Well,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to be recognized if
Yes,
allowed.
if I had known, I would have done it earlier.
I know y'all have had a pretty involved discussion already, and I apologize for being out of the room, but we've got 2 other bills on a separate subcommittee, and I would just ask Representative Carpenter if he could come back and join us again for some more discussions, and move that we adjourn.
Yes. We're going to go and adjourn this meeting. And then in just a moment, we'll start the tax revision special subcommittee. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for presenting. And thank you to those on Zoom for being here with us.
Thanks, Chairman. Appreciate it.